Morning, Russ, Dittmer, Transport Workers Union of America, Local 591. I represent the line aircraft mechanics at American Airlines for 34 years and a proud United States Army Reserve veteran.
A runway incursion is an incorrect presence of an aircraft, a vehicle, or a person inside of the protected area of a runway, a movement area that's a runway or a runway safety area. So any portion of an aircraft, vehicle, or pedestrian that is across that hold line, we consider a runway incursion.
Staffing is safety.
I'm glad the pilots got a chance to talk first and the controllers also get their perspective. But as looking at the slides and seeing that part of the solution is also training the ground operators, ground vehicle operators, and making sure that there is recurrent training with going to a stop, hold short area, and then getting clearance and then white knuckling it through to make sure you're getting to an ILS that's down, to get to an RVR, making sure that equipment is operating. It's not something that we normally do every day as far as training. So that recurrent training, something that is simulator-based, where you don't have to actually be there out on the field. You have an opportunity for the ground vehicle drivers to go over, because in a lot of instances, staffing is a problem for us as well. We're down 15% technicians since 2016, and you're going to multiple airports now where you weren't always going to before. And it's a new environment, it's a new situation. You may take the test to get your license and be able to drive on that surface area, but it's not something that you're constantly doing over and over again. So that's where recurrent training is crucial. So investing in the training, investing in the manpower is something that I hope the FAA is able to get from the support from Congress.
And I'd like to add on to that. I represent the line aircraft mechanics at American Airlines. I don't recall seeing the line aircraft mechanics listed in 2017. I'm really excited to be here, frankly, as a voice for us insane human beings that most of us work midnights, turn wrenches all night, then have to clean up to get into the flight deck and move the airplane in the morning at probably the most insane period of time. I work at O'Hare, probably the insane asylum of all of the airports out there other than maybe Atlanta. A couple of things came up in this conversation I think are important. Number one, the pilots hit on all of the topics that we experience as well, whether it's case or ed. They've absolutely knocked it out of the park. Gentleman to my left brought up vehicle drivers. One of the things I reviewed in all the documents, I thought it was kind of odd, as licensed aircraft mechanics, when we're taxiing or towing airplanes, if it's a disabled aircraft or if we're just taxiing, we're classified as a vehicle driver instead of actually a licensed aircraft movement personnel of some sort. I think it would be useful to kind of tear that grouping out of the vehicle driver category and say, is that aircraft mechanic, licensed aircraft mechanic, moving an aircraft as an aircraft mechanic, or are they driving a vehicle across a taxiway or a runway to go tow an airplane or whatnot? I think we might find some useful data in there to demonstrate either we need more help or maybe we're doing it pretty well. I don't know what that is, because looking at the data, I really couldn't find that nuance in there one way or the other. As to training, one of the things that my local is really passionate about right now is we have to get away from training to check a box. We have to get away from sitting in front of a computer, click, 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 now I'm going to get my lunch, click, 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 finish up. One of the most valuable ground movement training experiences I ever had was in Chicago. I will not name the air traffic controller's name, but suffice to say he has one of the coolest names out there in air traffic control. Joe Petroni would be proud. He took time out of his own schedule, unpaid, to come and explain to us a lot of the nuances as aircraft mechanics that we never experience in a normal workday, and showed us for a few years in videos that we never saw before about the repercussions of not being aware of what's out there. That needs to be brought back, and it needs to be part of the instructions on an annual basis for anyone other than pilots. They get their own recurrent training. Most of us don't. Most of us get a computer. Click, 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 go. And it's really a dangerous place for us to be. And it's one that we, as an organization, really want to see a focus on bringing the regulatory agency back to saying, hey, this can't just be a computer program to teach a guy. Can it be a simulator? Rock on, we're in. But we need something more and something of substance to reinforce the human factors, the human drift. I was really pleased to see the focus on human factors and human drift and all that in your 2017 documents. It's really important, as is just policy. Don't just go after the person because they made a mistake. Figure out what they did wrong, why they did it wrong, and learn moving forward. Please. And with that, again, I thank everyone for inviting me today. This is a fantastic opportunity for us. The technology that we interface with every day is a lot different than what pilots see, frankly. And some of the most disappointing technology is, and I'm going to beat this dead horse a little bit, is the training technology. We have some airports where it's click, 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 go. Some of them, surprisingly, are now starting to have ground surface movement simulator training of some sort, which is a great start. But it needs to be everywhere, and it needs to be more consistent, and it needs to be based upon real-time examples. Let's face it, not every single air traffic controller and not every single aircraft mechanic and every single pilot speaks perfect English and enunciates perfectly. Most of our computerized training is based upon this, little unrealistic world that we're supposed to all live in. Along with that, this mundane training of simulators, ground movement simulators, we can't let each airport or airport authority decide whether or not they're going to implement one or not. I mean, realistically, what you're doing then is you're leaving each individual airport as its own hen house with a fox guarding it, and that one's guarded over there this way, this one's guarded that way. It needs to be more consistent that anywhere I go, frankly, if I'm on a field trip working in Des Moines or if I'm on a field trip working in Salt Lake City, when I taxi an airplane in the middle of the night, I know that the consistency is going to be there in how I move that airplane, and I'm going to be trained just as well so that I can communicate with Bridget as someone in a smaller aircraft maintenance facility. Now, we are talking about airlines, obviously, mostly because we work in the bigger airports. But that type of mundane technology is much easier to implement, and it's something that can actually probably be mandated much more quickly because it's already available. It's basically buying some machines. The worst part for the airlines, frankly, is it's going to take mechanics away from turning wrenches and inspecting airplanes, and they're going to resist it. But if the value is there for our customers, the value is there for our pilots, the value is there for the industry and safety, it's something that needs to be invested in. First and foremost, obviously, thank you for inviting aircraft mechanics to this really important safety forum. We play in that sandbox a lot, and it's nice to actually be part of the conversation about what's being experienced on the runways, on the taxiways on a daily basis that we experience in a lot of our airports. By the way, my colleagues on the right there, I definitely was not taking anything away from the efforts that you and your airports or your organizations are doing. I actually applaud them. My goal and my commentary was more along the lines of trying to get all of your best practices plus any others we can find and get them throughout the system. So next is, for me, technology is not something that the members I represent are concerned too much about. Yes, we have some Luddites, myself included, but the obvious basic technologies are the ones we need the most. Someone said it previously, I apologize, I don't remember, give us the tools to be successful. Most of those tools are not high-tech, expensive, in the future things. These are things that we need today. And training, which I don't think anyone missed, is at the highest point of that. As to the two things that, for my membership that I represent, Number one would be a focus on putting licensed airmen moving aircraft on the airfield. I'm not talking about pushing airplanes off a gate, but anytime an aircraft gets moved throughout the airfield, whether it's a pilot taxiing, a mechanic taxiing, towing, a high-speed tow, have that be licensed so that you can control the group of people that are being trained. It's totally about safety. It's totally about making sure that the end result is the airplane got to the gate and we don't have to call the NTSB for an event. The other one is, absolutely, I've beaten it up and I'm going to continue to beat it up until I retire, and that is training. Ed said it, and so did just about everyone else here. Please, we have to get back to where we were well before the pandemic, of getting our training not just to check a box, but to actually help us in the toolbox. Thank you again.